Hey there, and welcome to the ADK channel. I'm Dave, and of course, unfortunately, there is no Andy or Kirk available today, but I am here with the wonderful band Parrilla. Welcome to the channel, guys. I'll try and keep it nice and simple, and really, we're going to dig into a bit of detail about your band today. So, we obviously, the first question we have to go into is Parrilla. Can you take us through the name of the band? Where does it come from? And a little bit of history about how this band has come together. And we'll take it from there. Over to you guys.
Right, so I'm the best to answer that since I'm the only original member left.
Okay,
But it's fine. We've never been signed, so it doesn't count.
it doesn't count.
But,
Yeah,
Exactly. Parrilla is a Spanish word that literally means grill,
right.
so a bit less exciting. However, we went down the Iron Maiden route. It's a torture method. Essentially, what it is you place someone on a metal, like a grill-like structure, ideally metal. You get electric, like prods, and you electrocute the person on that grill.
Okay.
It goes a little bit further, a bit more brutal, but we thought, we're trying to do like an industrial thing with like simps and so on. Electricity, awesome. That's the electronic side sorted. Torture, metal, sweet, let's go.
Okay, and how long's the band been going?
About 2018, but we have had a few changes and like a mix in style. I'd say like the band now is quite different than when we originally started.
Right. Okay. And is the stylization, has that changed with lineup changes through the EPs? Because you had the Dance for Messiah, 2020, and Femme Fatale 1, that was in 2021. So has there been different lineups with each of those EPs?
Yeah, so the first EP was written by myself and the then drummer David, whereas Femme Fatale 1 had Chris, Luke and David. Now the only thing that we have changed is the drummer for this record.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, James.
How's it going?
I am going to just say for anyone watching, Chris is there. It's just not an image of him just to hold the place. He is there. Unfortunately, the video doesn't work, so he's in the background somewhere. Say hello, Chris.
Hello, I am here. I'll be answering questions as well. Don't worry. So it's all good.
I mean, to be fair, it'd be really impressive if you could keep still while holding a camera the entire time.
That would be an impressive.
In black and white as well. You know.
So, I was really intrigued, and it's one of these questions that I throw out to people, and loads of people don't want to give me a straight answer on it. And it seems to be it's going to be a discussion point at some point on this channel. But whenever I talk about bands, we discuss about genres, etc., etc. And the reason we talk about genres of bands is to try and help people discover new acts. Because if you're into death metal and someone says, "Oh, I've got a great new band," and they're a death metal band, oh, brilliant! I'll check them out. Whereas if they say they're an avant-garde, Spanish fly, post-pop band, you're like, I have no idea what that means, but it's probably not for me. I had a real hard time picking your stylization out. I really did. I kind of picked it out. I mean, these are some of the influences I could hear listening to all your music. I had Carter USM. I had the B-52s in there. I had Gary Newman, Rammstein, Static X, Sisters of Mercy. There's hints of grunge in there. There are elements of avant-garde, post-industrial punk, goth pop. So I was just kind of like, I don't know where you guys kind of sit within anything, but if you were to try and describe yourself so that to help people understand if they were into another genre or another band, they would really like you, who else would you kind of throw in there?
Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah.
That's one of my biggest influences, and I use a lot of those Trent's sort of musical styles with the synths and the noise, particularly on our newest EP. I chuck a lot of influences in there, so I would say that's a good starting point. I think for Danny, it's definitely Rammstein. I know you've mentioned that, but yeah, Danny loves Rammstein as well, and there's a lot of influences in there from what I can hear.
There's there's a lot of industrial. Like I started the band as an industrial act.
Yeah.
Surrounded was the first song that was written because I stopped doing another band and I was walking to like a really shitty job that I had at the time. And while I was walking, I'm suddenly getting like, oh, this is really catchy. And it was like shortly after I interviewed the industrial band Fleisch, and
Right.
they released a song called I forgot the name of it. I can't remember. If anyone knows it, it goes like but anyway, yeah, I think it's gone from like a simple like like Rammstein kind of thing to more in depth. There's definitely Sisters of Mercy in there. Depeche Mode are an influence to a point. Definitely Nine Inch Nails. A lot of like the industrial Neue Deutsche Harte Welle sort of series, like all these 90s bands. But we've also gotten more into adding like a new metal influence. So not like not quite the rap influence, but more like the Korn, Deftones side of new metal.
Yeah, I think that's where I heard the kind of Static X element coming through, which was that crossover of new metal and industrial, and the electronica elements as well coming through from that. I was like, I mean, that was, I can't remember, it was more on, I think it was on Dance for Messiah, I was definitely hearing more of like the Carter, USM, punk industrial elements, and then I heard on the Femme Fatale getting more into the Rammstein, the more new metal, modern industrial elements coming through. The further back you went in your musical releases, you would definitely get more of that 90s, as you said, like 90s, which I kind of put down as industrial punk goth pop, because it had that Sisters of Mercy kind of vibe of the goth elements in there. It's got the industrial, which sounded great. It was just very hard for me to kind of go, I can kind of almost pick out lots of your different influences, but you don't sound like one particular genre. And I understand why people don't want to put themselves and go, we're just an industrial band, because you're so much more, you've got so many more elements.
It's that, and as well, I've brought this point up to someone a few months back. It's not no industrial band sounds like another.
No.
Every industrial band sounds completely different. Look at, say, Fear Factory and Pain. They're both fast. They both have a strong American influence, but they don't sound anything like each other.
It is very true, though, is that it's a challenge to try and define, and a lot of people don't like being defined by a genre, because then they don't feel they can go outside of those genres and experiment. And I understand that, but then we've also had another element where we've talked to bands and they go, we don't want to be just defined by that, we're just metal. And that's a really hard one, because then if you're trying to describe someone to other people, should you listen to this band, they're metal. Well, if you're an Iron Maiden fan, you may not really like the Rammstein music. You might do, but it's a little bit more helpful for people to kind of have that definition, or at least even if you've got like 20 different genres you kind of list out, it does, at least it kind of gets you a little bit closer.
Like, one thing we never wanted to do was be pigeonholed creatively to just one genre.
No,
like we've seen bands like, I'm throwing them out there, Bring Me the Horizon. They've genre hopped left, right and centre and done a lot. Metallica, Load and Reload and so on. And the one thing I never wanted to do was, okay, let's do like 3 records and then change up, and people, oh, why have they done that? Oh, I don't understand it. It's not the old band that I knew. So we always wanted to set that expectation from the start that that's really awesome that you like this, but we are going to be doing different things as well.
Yeah. No boundaries. You can kind of just decide what feels right with a song, then, I guess.
Yeah, we kind of just, we try and stick to a theme. Otherwise, if you don't set a certain limitation, you never get anything done.
Right. So with the listening back to the recordings for Dance for Messiah and obviously Femme Fatale, and also your cover of the Nirvana cover, Breed, there's a style to them, so I'm not sure where you recorded them, if it was a particular recording studio that you used. There's a natural unpolishedness. It's not been overproduced. Was this something that was something you planned to go in? And I wrote it down that the drum sound is pretty raw. It's not been overly EQ'd. It's almost like you literally just set the drum kits up, put the mics on, played through the track, and went, "Yep, that'll do. Done. Next, move on." And it works. It actually works within the recording, but I didn't know if that was, or if it was something that you kind of went, actually, we want to get a certain sound where we want it to sound a bit more rawer, and not sound polished. Just take me through that little recording process of the first two EPs.
We quite like to have a raw sound, because like a lot of us are influenced by the sort of like 90s, especially the early 90s style of music, where back then things were produced, but not produced by, sort of today's standards. Today's standards is kind of like, well, a lot of modern metal bands are very well produced. You can hear everything really clearly, and we do like that, but we kind of like to be in the middle a little bit, where we have something that's kind of raw but a little bit polished at the same time. And I think that's where we get a lot more kind of like grunge influences with that. When you listen to like Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, early Alice in Chains, and all like that, that kind of wasn't perfect, but it still had that raw energy. And I felt that's what we're trying to go with a lot of our songwriting and producing.
Yeah.
Is we just don't want to go too. We don't want to be perfect. We want to keep that raw energy, but have some sort of production behind it as well. So it's kind of a bit of a balance for us.
Okay.
It's kind of about getting a balance between having so much electronica that maybe that won't appeal to some people who listen to particular styles of metal. Might go, oh, you know what, like electronica's not my thing. And electronic sounds, getting them so sort of raw and like electronic, just the way that they sound when you're when you're recording in anything electronic, it's so cold, and so to bring in some live elements and to kind of get like the cross between the two, it's getting those two worlds kind of just mesh together, and that really helps out there and ultimately sound like a unit rather than sound like different units that have been connected together.
So what does that mean? I guess you mentioned you've been doing a new is it an album or a new EP that you're doing? Take us through that. Is that going to be a natural continuation from the Femme Fatale, or is this going to be a slightly different style? Take us through the new recording.
So
I'll let Danny talk.
Right. So with Femme Fatale, we always planned it to be a trilogy, as we wanted to explore the theme of the cycle of abuse, whether that's romantic abuse, whether it's platonic abuse, and so on and so forth, just the theme of abuse. So the first one was all about, it's exciting, this is new, this is so, and you get in something new, you get excited, you don't really see the red flags, and you get into something that necessarily won't be good for you. While the next record that we're doing, this, which for now we'll just call Femme Fatale 2, is about the melancholy, the depression, the darker side of it all, of like, I'm in this situation that I don't feel I can get out of, or I'm in this headspace and so on. It's something that we explored an atmosphere primarily for this record, and there's some things that I personally think are really cool that we've done with it. We've kind of changed the way we want to like release it all. Like the general plan has kind of changed, and I think the way we are changing it will be better for the songs overall.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
So yeah, we can talk about this, can't we?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. So originally, so I'm quite analytical. So I look at what everyone does. Like, okay, like this works, this doesn't work, or why are you still doing this? This seems to be Like every band I see that releases an EP is, we've released a single, now we've released an EP. And it's like, that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But I feel like we want to do something different. So, like, we're not a massive band. We're not filling up the O2 Islington or the O2 Arena or anything like that, or even playing something like Rock am Ring. So, why should you care about us releasing a single than an EP?
Right.
So, in my eyes, I thought, oh, okay, what if we release every song from the EP as a single?
Yeah.
Just release it bit by like drip feeding it, which makes more sense because then we've got time. It gives people more content over a certain amount of time. It gives people more time to people will digest it more if it's a single than an EP because of, as you know, everyone says, short attention spans, time, etc., etc. It also allows us to work on songs a little bit more as well because we do everything. We pretty much do mostly everything in house. The photography. Chris, as you can tell from the photo that he's taken, is a photographer.
Yeah.
And he's, we've taken photos. Yes, we spent 2 hours taking photos and they've looked absolutely incredible, not even going through post. Almost everyone in the band can do mixing and mastering. Everyone has a production background in some capacity. We can all record ourselves. Everyone in the band understands design. We can film ourselves and so on. So we like adding that like extra detail and just adding a space. Really, if that makes sense at all.
It does. It's one of the things that's been weirdly you were saying about it, but it's become actually quite a common thing we found going into this year when we've been talking to a lot of bands, is with everyone's new release, there's only been out of maybe 10 interviews, one band that's actually said they're either dropping the EP or an album as a whole. Everyone else is doing that route this year. They're all planning the singles release, and they're literally they're going to drop a single, and then 6 to 8 weeks later they'll drop a second single, and the same thing just to keep momentum through the year, so they've got something new. Because they're saying that same thing literally is their last EP, they dropped it, they had a load of views and listens, and then it just trailed off again, and nothing happened the rest of the year. They couldn't get it going again because, unfortunately, with the streaming that aspect, it's a fickle world. You listen to it once, and everyone moves on because it's such a disposable commodity now. Music, unfortunately, and I mean, quick question around it: is it an EP or an album's worth of material that you've done this time?
It's an EP.
It's gonna be an EP.
Yeah, so I mean, the songs themselves will fit onto the EP because they all have that same, in terms of production at least, they all have that similar characteristic to each other. Where, as Danny was saying earlier, you know, where the story that we're following with this character is going for that melancholy stage, where he's depressed and his mind is clouded. So I really wanted to, in terms of production, capture that. So a lot of the songs, it's very noisy. There's walls of noise and lots of distortion and that to kind of really capture that. So when you compile the songs together, they all fit that narrative in terms of production, and rather than having songs that stick out too much. So we're still keeping with the same theme. We just want to release it a little bit differently. Or well, that's what we're looking to do at the moment. Whether it will actually fully go ahead that way, probably will, but we're not 100% with it right now, so we're still discussing it.
And will it be like a purely digital EP in that sense, or will you do physical copies available for people? Is that something you've thought about in the long run? Like once you get to all the releases completed, will you then produce a physicals? Because I know that's something that a lot of people like myself, I don't use streaming platforms at all, unless it's when I need to quickly check a band out to find out a bit more history about them. But I will always do digital downloads. Or from like the Bandcamp for the band or something like that, or I'll buy a physical CD. So at least then you're putting money back into the pocket. And I know there's a lot of people that still like the tangibility of having a CD. So is that something you would look to do?
Ideally, yes. That's the other reason why we're doing it as singles, so we can garner the interest and say, is it worth us doing a CD?
Right.
It's like there's two bands that come to mind that have done this. Electric Callboy,
Yeah.
who have released single after single after single, then release it as an album. Because people like the physical thing. But, you know, it gives you the option, for example, say, oh, we've written, I don't know, let's say we've written and recorded 15 songs. I'm not entirely sure if people get this song. Cool, release it as a single. Oh no, that single flopped. Fine, that's just not going to be on the album. And so on. So I think that's a clever way of doing it. I was listening to a interview with Edsel from Dope, and and he's been released. He's been doing that format as you've been saying, you know, releasing songs and so on, and he's releasing them for free. Because in all fairness, you can't really expect people to pay £1 for a song when you can get it for free everywhere else. Just because I think the digital. Main... Sorry, I was just going to say. No, go ahead. You go.
So, I think the difference is with digital release, we can do it periodic. We can do it on occasion when necessary. Whereas the physical copy, the question is, what do you do with it, and why would someone want it? And the reason for having a physical copy after everything's been released is that's when we'd be sort of touring, and that's when someone might come to a whole show and want like the whole catalogue. And if they go home, they'd be searching through several singles. You probably do it by popularity, but you know, to know that you can actually just get a physical memorabilia of like, okay, I saw this band. Here's everything I need to know about them, including like the web links and stuff, if and when I want to follow them more. So they kind of cater for different markets. One is sort of for promotional aspect to get our names out there, and that's, you know, the same as everyone else. Whereas the physical one is for later when everything is cemented more, everything's complete, and it's like it would be for the shows only. I'm saying this, I haven't actually spoken to.
No, you're completely.
But that's how it works.
You're 100% right. You verbalized what I was trying to say.
Apart from one word, which I'm still not going to attempt.
Yeah.
Okay, so final question for me then is, apart from obviously the releasing of the songs that you've got planned for the rest of 2023, what else is on the plan for the band this year?
More shows. Yeah, we want to do lots and lots of more shows.
Have you got anything specifically planned on that's already in the pipeline that you've got that I can put on the channel to let people know when you're next playing?
Well, so I'm gonna go into salesman mode. Right, so
way to do it.
So the next very delicious offering of live music from Parrilla is on the 25th of February for Essex Winterfest at the Essex Arms in Brentwood. Then we have one show in Cambridge at the 66. At the 66 Bar, which is on the 8th of March, and that will be, and I'm really excited for this because this is a bit different, is we're the only band on, and it's a DJ, like an alternative DJ night for the rest of the night.
Okay.
A bit like the London clubs, like Reptile.
Yeah, no, it's
Club
a good
Antichrist.
venue. It's a good venue.
And a first time for, I think, any sort of like band is the Ironworks at Southend-on-Sea on the 11th of March. So it's a place that's trying to start getting bands in. So that's going to be quite interesting. From now, we haven't booked many more shows because I wanted us to focus more on, you know, recording, mixing, mastering, and all that. But the other thing that we also want to try and do, the reason we're also doing all these singles, is it gives us more time to start focusing on the next recordings, start writing for that. So we're not staying stagnant and we can still keep flexing those writing muscles.
Fair enough. Well, it's been wonderful having you guys on the channel. I'll put all links down in the description down below for your relevant pages and links, etc. And so people can go and get those dates for your live shows. So make sure to go and check you out, especially the 66 Bar gig, because that's a great venue to go and play at. A lot of bands that we know from the Hertfordshire area head to Cambridge and play there all the time. So it is a great one to go and support the band. For anyone that's watching, or all of you that are watching, hopefully there is someone watching, please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you to Dan, James and Chris for joining me on the channel, and this was Parrilla. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Cheers then.